The entire time I've lived in LA, which is now 21 years.
Oh my God, a long time. It's like a
I
life.
know,
Wow. In the same place, in the same
in
house?
the same place.
That's so great. Lucky
But
you.
I don't have to change places because I changed the place. I've been working on, it was a fixer upper, and I've been fixing it up for 21 years.
Fun.
All right, you guys, you are up
Not always
everywhere.
fun.
All right, great. So, hi everyone. It's Nina Collins from the Wolfer. Hello, Revel. And we're doing a Facebook Live today with Dale Pollekoff, who I want to introduce to everyone. In fact, I need to change my view so I can be side by side. There we are. So, Dale created a meetup group that was very, very popular in LA. I'm going to tell you what little I know about Dale, and then we're going to get to know her together. Dale created a meetup group called Finding Female Friends Over 50, which she did in LA, and it grew to, I think, over 2,000 women. It was very popular. And the New York Times wrote an article about her in 2018, I think in January or so. And I remember reading it and thinking it was fascinating and thinking that you're very much that we were in the same space. And obviously the women at Revel read it and thought the same thing. And so Revel, which started, I guess, 18 months ago or so, reached out to Dale and brought her into their fold. So she's now a full-time employee at Revel, and we're now new colleagues, but we barely know each other because it's been such a busy flurry, this whole transition and merger. So we haven't even really spoken very much. We've got lots to get to know each other about. So I thought we would do a FaceTime Live to kind of introduce her as a leading host on the Revel community and as someone who knows a lot about building community and cares a lot about women of a certain age, maybe of all ages. So hi, Dale. Thank you for coming.
Hi, you're welcome. And I love that carefully placed Pussypedia. The spine of that book behind you.
You know what's funny about the way this is placed? Oh, and there's a banana peel next to it too. I was doing some call the other day and it occurred to me to take it down, and I did. But yeah, I really like it's kind of subtle, you know. It's got Billie Jean King above it. Thank you for noticing.
Couldn't help but.
So you're originally from DC, right?
Yes.
And what was your career? And did you work? What's your back history?
Oh yeah, yeah. My all-consuming desire was to become a painter. But by the time I got out of college, I didn't want to paint anymore, having chosen the wrong school with the wrong approach. So I was able to parlay that into a career as a graphic designer.
Okay.
So that's what I did. First museum publications, and then for 20 years, I was an art director and designer of Time Life books, which a lot of the people in Revel are actually old enough to remember.
Yeah, I remember them, certainly. That's so cool. Where did you go to college that it wasn't the right place to paint?
I went to Boston University. I selected that because I loved Boston, and it had a very well-reputed art school. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't just a painting school. It wasn't just a fine arts school. There was a broader curriculum. So that's what I wanted, but their approach was very, very, very academic. Mm-hmm. And there was absolutely no freedom as an undergraduate. Mm-hmm. I literally was told which direction the paint stroke should go in and what color they should be. And after 4 years of that, the whole thing just began to feel like a homework assignment, and all of the thrill was gone.
Yeah. Your parents were probably glad you became a graphic designer because it's more practical.
You know what? I'm glad too. I was not cut out to be a starving artist.
Yeah. And do you paint now? Do you do any kind of like physically?
I don't paint. Honestly, I haven't picked up a paintbrush since I left school, but I was doing assemblage. I had an art studio in Hollywood for about 5 or 6 years, and that was fun. I was creating these 3-dimensional things, mostly from organic materials like palm seed, pods and branches and twine and stuff.
Oh, cool. That makes me wonder if you do kind of creative events on Revel, but let's get to that. So how and why did you start finding female friends over 50 on Meetup? I've actually never used Meetup, I don't think. I've looked at it a couple times, but maybe I used it once for something. But anyway, I'm not a Meetup user. But how did you come to it and decide to do this group?
Well, so when I moved here in 2000, I hate to diverge in something totally different.
No, that's fine.
But I had a difficult medical diagnosis, which is also why I left Time Life Books after 20 years. So when I moved here, I was basically a professional patient for the first, 7 or 8 years. I don't know if you know what that means, but that means in my case, I have a diagnosis that no one has been able to help me with, but I refuse to give up trying. So I'm just going to keep doing treatments and finding doctors and researching till I come up with something.
Yeah.
So that really filled my life, honestly. That filled my life for at least the first 5-7 years. Then I decided to stop.
Sorry to interrupt, but did you have good health insurance? I hope. That sounds horrible and hard.
I did, but health insurance doesn't help when you have a diagnosis that Western medicine doesn't know anything about.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a moot point.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I did. So anyway, at a certain point, I decided, I'm not getting anywhere with this never give up policy. I'm just going to accept, I'm going to be a Buddhist about this, and I'm just going to accept and make the most of what I do have. And it was then that I realized that I only had 2 friends in LA, and both of them were always too busy to see me.
Mm.
And so I spent a few years feeling sorry for myself and being depressed about this and wondering, is this something wrong with me that I'm having so much trouble finding friends in LA? And I finally decided in 2016, the beginning of 2016, to do something about it. And the thing that I did, not knowing anything else, was to go to Meetup, which I was a tiny bit familiar with, and look for a group for older women. And I was astonished that there was nothing. There was nothing on Meetup just for women that were older. So I started finding female friends past 50. And there were 200 joiners in the first 2 weeks.
Wow.
So I knew that I had struck a chord.
Mm-hmm.
And the first in-person meeting we ever had, I think it was March of 2016, 23 women came, and it was unbelievable. I was totally unprepared for the love. It was just this instant love fest. Everybody was so excited to meet one another and to engage. And it was like we had all been starving for this for years.
Wow, how wonderful.
And it was like that throughout. It was just really great. And I realized that I was not, in fact, the only woman in LA that was having trouble making friends. It seemed to be something that many of us shared.
Yeah, LA is so hard because it's so disparate also, right? People don't want to travel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Geography is a huge thing.
And I'm curious, were you married, children, always single,
no,
alone in LA, no family?
Yeah.
So you went from 2 friends to hundreds of friends kind of overnight.
Yeah.
What was that like? That must have been incredible.
Yeah. Well, I've been so busy on the organizer end of it. Mm-hmm. The group got up to 800 in 2 or 3 years, and that's when the New York Times wrote about it. Mm-hmm. And that article went viral. So then the group exploded to 4,000, nearly 4,000 members and 17 chapters across the country.
Wow.
So there was a lot going on.
Mhm.
And I made some lovely friends, but not hundreds of them, because I was very, my attention at meetings was on everyone else to make
Yeah,
sure everyone, and you know that as a host,
of
you
course.
want to make sure that everybody else is comfortable and
Right.
not get too bogged down in any one person, because it seems unfair to the group.
Yep. Did you try and monetize it at that point? You must have felt kind of excited and overwhelmed.
I never really wanted to monetize it. What I did want to do was to create a nonprofit.
Mhm. That's what people often suggested that to me with the wolf.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I thought if I could get sponsors, I could pay perhaps for my own website, because I was eager to get out of the confines of Meetup.
Yeah.
Um, and I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about creating my own platform.
Mhm.
And just about at that time was when I found out about Revel.
Uh-huh. Which was a really good fit, right? Because they were in California and they were about events and women getting together. I mean, essentially the tech platform of Hello Revel, at least the way it was conceived, was really a meetup for women over 50. So
Yeah,
completely perfect intersection with what you were doing.
it was.
Yeah,
It
that's
was.
great.
It was our visions aligned 100%.
That's so wonderful. As someone who also obviously runs and founded community, I'm immediately thinking, how did your members communicate with each other? Like the Wolfer and What Would Virginia Woolf Do kind of right came from the other, right? We started on Facebook. So we came from the perspective of typing and chatting with each other all the time. So in Meetup, can you talk on Meetup? How did you guys communicate with each other?
Well, that's one of the many weaknesses of the Meetup platform. Can you talk? Yes. There are messages, but the user interface isn't the best.
Mhm.
It's hard sometimes to figure out where messages reside, because at least there used to be about 3 different locations on the Meetup site where comments and messages could
I
be
see.
left. You didn't have your own inbox like you do on Revel.
Got it.
And another weakness of Meetup is that it's easy on Meetup, even inadvertently, to cut off all of your notifications, even from the organizer of your group.
Mm, mhm.
So a third, maybe a half of your members are incommunicado.
Got it. So that's not good.
People aren't paying close attention to their messages, even when they know where they are.
It's just a different kind of experience.
Yeah, but
Or-
Meetup is,
right.
like you said, it's really, Meetup is about posting events and having people RSVP and
Right.
come to those events.
Right, but it's
And
not
that's
so
what we
much
do.
about, right, it's not so much about the larger community and kind of everyone connecting. So
Yeah.
what kinds of, I guess I'm curious, what kinds of events you found were most popular? And then I'm interested in what kind of events you particularly are most interested in attending and hosting.
Um, Gosh, always popular are events where we go to a nice restaurant.
Mhm.
Women love food, which I
Yeah.
think is great.
Yeah.
So that's something you could always count on.
Do you usually
Um,
find that you meet strangers at those events? Like one of the problems we're having right now with the integration, you're finding it too, right? Suddenly everything is waitlisted and sold out, even though they're free events. I think we'll figure that out. We just have to kind of get through it. But I'm curious, when you host an event at a restaurant, how often are the women complete strangers to each other versus do they know each other, or is it just random?
um, it was, well, in the beginning, of course, it was always complete strangers. But women, like I told you, the enthusiasm for getting to know one another was so great that women started forming friendships immediately. So at any given event after the first year, there were women who had met before, there were women who had struck up friendships, and there were new faces, which is a
Nice.
wonderful
Yeah.
mix. It's really ideal.
Yeah, it really
Yeah. The women in Finding Female Friends Past 50, as well as Revel, love cultural things.
Mhm.
So going to galleries, going to museums, concerts, theater, these events always filled up immediately. I had a rule on Finding Female Friends, that for anyone who wanted to host something that was a cultural event, like a theater event or music, if you're seated in a chair facing forward, then you had to couple that event either before or afterwards with something where you can communicate and get to know each other. So you couldn't just have a lecture. No, you had to have lunch first, or you had to have wine afterwards.
Nice. Nice to force people to kind of really get together.
Yeah, otherwise, what's the point?
And so now that you've joined with Revel and you've brought women over, what's your day-to-day role like? How many events do you host? How has it changed for you?
Well, I have my title is Director of Special Projects, which is nice and vague. I like it because it allows me to do all kinds of things. So in the beginning, I was working a lot, kind of in an art director capacity, as part of the team, looking at how the website UI and UX was being developed, making sure that everything was done with a nod to older women, because in FFFF and in Revel up until now, women had to be 50 or beyond. And there are a lot of older women in their 60s or 70s that are not that well versed in tech. So it had to be very intuitive, and it couldn't be, well, it had to be intuitive. It had to be very easy to read. The type could be minuscule, that kind of stuff. I love doing events. I love creating them. I love attending them. I love hosting them. So I was doing a number of events. Right now, I have reduced that to 2 ongoing series. One is weekly, and that's my Saturday night movie, where we watch together a movie on one of the many streaming platforms available, and then we have a discussion afterwards.
How fun do you you watch the movie and you screen share on Zoom?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And you know, if you want to attend and you happen to have the streaming platform for the movie I'm showing that week, you're welcome to watch it on your TV.
Right.
But because I'm subscribed now to 7 or 8 streaming platforms, just so I can do this, and I don't expect attendees to make that big an investment.
And do you choose the movies completely yourself? Yeah. And are they
I call it seriously Saturday Night at the Movies, because the point is that afterwards, after seeing the movie, it makes us think enough to have an interesting conversation. So I show documentaries and I show interesting films that I think will lend to a good
that are thought-provoking. That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So Saturday Night at the Movies with Dale. And what's your second series?
And then monthly, I'm doing something that I call Eye Candy. I think the full name is something like Eye Candy : Down the Rabbit Hole of Visual Wonders. Okay. And this is something that I absolutely love. It was an idea that came to me right out of COVID. I found myself going down the rabbit hole on YouTube and Vimeo and Behance. There's so many interesting platforms. A lot of them are not well known, but platforms where creative people, often professional, will upload short video clips or images of creative work that they've done. And some of it is so compelling and so much fun to have. And we all know how you can get lost in YouTube.
Yeah.
Just really down the rabbit hole. So what I'm doing is I go through all of these platforms. I curate what I believe is the best, the really eye-catching images, the really interesting video clips.
Oh, funny.
And
so it's a weird, quirky event where you share weird stuff you found on the internet.
Exactly.
Huh. You do
Exactly.
this you do it once a month, not every week. So
Yes.
once a month. That's great. So you like save up all the weird, so it's a good use of your passion of like digging into all these weird sites. And then you have your art director skills of pulling interesting stuff out. So it's a little bit like a mini art museum experience.
Exactly.
That sounds so fun.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
as you probably know, I've been lobbying for us at Revel to change the word curator to, creator to curator, just because I like the way it sounds, Revel curator for people who are creating events and all the rest. But that's a really good example. I mean, you are in both cases really curating your events. You're choosing films that you think are super interesting and you're
Yes.
choosing art that you think is really interesting.
Yes. Yes.
That's great.
Oh, I forgot to mention, now that we have groups, which by the way is not live yet, but will be soon.
Yep.
I'm doing a group called Movable Feast,
Mm,
which will be LA because it's going to be in person.
yeah.
And having been inspired by Jonathan Gold, you know who Jonathan
Yeah. Oh,
Gold
I've
is.
seen that documentary. It's an amazing. My
City
boyfriend
of
is a
Gold.
very good chef, and we watched that
Oh
documentary.
yeah, it's fabulous.
Yeah.
Fabulous. In fact, I showed that as one of my Saturday movies. So
Well,
we're
let
going
me
to
just
follow
tell.
in his
I
footsteps.
just want to tell listeners if you don't know. So Jonathan Gold, Dale probably knows better than I do, but he was a famous LA film critic who is dead now, I believe. And
He's a food critic, you mean?
food critic, and it's a documentary about his work in LA, and it's a very LA movie, and it's a wonderful movie.
Yeah, City of Gold. Watch it. It's fabulous.
So so Movable Feast is what? You're going to go to.
So we're going to do the ethnic hole in a wall,
How great.
shopping strip places, because
Once a month?
maybe we haven't decided, no more than once a month.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Those are
Yeah.
really great events.
Yeah.
And again, like so you get a mix of people, regulars, new people. How do you figure out the minimum maximum number? What's your rule?
I've never done anything quite like this, which is a group that meets monthly or whatever it is. So I'm going to have to wait and see how many sign up, and then I'll figure out the logistics, because right now
Really
it could be 5 people, it could be 35. We'll have to see.
Yeah, wow, that sounds like a great event. And then do you go to other events just because they interest you, or are you too busy?
I do occasionally. Yeah, I've been so busy that it's hard to find the time. Oh, and I do a French discussion group. In fact, at noon today, I have my French group. So.
Okay, at noon Pacific today and Friday you have
Yeah.
so, and you're a Francophile, you just love all things French. I read about you.
No, I'm not that much of a Francophile, but I love the French language and I speak it well enough to have a basic conversation. And it's fun, and getting together with other women who speak, at a sort of high intermediate level keeps us all in practice.
No, it's great. In fact, I was wondering, well, 2 thoughts I have. One is that we also had a French discussion group during COVID run by a member named Jillian Stern. And I need to introduce you to, because she loved doing it and didn't get enough people to come. And you'd love Jillian.
She signed up.
Oh, she signed up.
Yeah, I remember her name on the list.
Okay, well, tell her I said hi. She's a beloved great wolfer, very, very smart. You'll really enjoy her. And then my second thought is I speak German. And I don't use it. In my 20s, I worked for Bertelsmann, and I actually had a brief green card marriage when I was very young to a Viennese guy. But I don't really practice it anymore. But I'm going to Vienna in October. And so just last night, I was driving out from the city and I downloaded all these podcasts, these German podcasts. And I was really glad to discover actually that the easy ones were too easy for me. The advanced ones were hard. So I was thinking maybe I should create a German discussion group. Yeah, because I need the practice, and there's so much grammar stuff that I've forgotten. But that's great that you do that. That's really fun.
I think out of our current 7,600 members, there should be enough interest in a German discussion group.
Yeah, that would be really fun. Well, that's great. And all right. And what else do you do in your spare time? Do you like to cook? Do you exercise? Do you?
There's so little spare time between looking for movies, curating eye-catching images, engaging with friends, because that is important to me. Yeah, I've discovered since COVID that I didn't think I would, but I actually like exercising alone, prefer it, in fact, to classes.
I think a lot of us have discovered that.
Yeah, that was a shock. So I got a treadmill and I thought I probably won't use this. It's probably a waste of money. No, I really like it.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
I found Gaia Yoga. I don't know if you're familiar
Yeah,
with it, but
well,
thousands of yoga
I do yoga a
classes.
lot in the mornings. I have to say, I bought the classic Peloton, the COVID Peloton, and I do use it, but not as much as I should. But I
Yeah.
think exercising at home is one of the revelations of COVID. Like we've all realized,
Yeah.
like we don't need to go anywhere. We can really just do it
Yeah.
at home, which is great.
Yeah. It's a
That's
safer place,
yeah.
because especially at my age.
So I was about to
Because
ask
when
you
I'm in a class, everybody is 30 years younger than me, and it's a little bit intimidating.
yeah,
So
I actually
alone, I don't have that.
I don't know if you have on the West Coast, you must. Barry's Boot Camp. There's this horrible exercise class called Barry's Boot Camp that's very hardcore. And 2 summers ago, before COVID, I went to a Barry's Boot Camp class out here in East Hampton. And I swear everyone in the room was under 30. Like they were so young and so hard bodied. It was really kind of freaky. Anyway, I understand. So how old are you, Dale? Do you say
Oh, yeah, I'm 74.
Nice. That's great. All right. I always like to say my age too. So I'm 52 and I love that we have this big range between us. And then we have Alexa and Lisa who are in their 30s and it's just great. It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
So this has been fun. I'm just glad to get to know you and share you with the community. We're featuring Gail this week as a host highlight, which is this new feature we're doing in the newsletter. And you guys should look out for her events, which sound really awesome and super smart and artsy. Wonderful. And I can't wait to meet you in person at the party in LA.
Oh, I know. Very exciting.
Yeah. All right. So bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.